Welcome to the July 23rd meeting of the Rutherford County Regional Planning Commission. If you would stand with us, please. Commissioner Pettis Reed will lead us in our prayer and our pledge.
Will you pray with me? Most gracious Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for this day you've given us. We're thankful for this opportunity to gather together to deal with the issues of this county. Father, we ask that you continue to watch over, that you guide us and help us to make the right decisions, and that you be with this county as we face difficult problems in the future. Father, we're so blessed here, but may we always remember that the blessings that we have come from you. Watch over us and guide us and protect us. We offer this prayer in your Son's holy name. Amen. Join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Call the roll, please, Gail.
Rhonda Allen. Jim Averwater.
Here.
Lee Bogle.
Here.
David Jones.
Here.
Mike Cush. Craig Lynch.
Yep.
Chip Pinion.
Here.
Charlotte P.
Here.
Pettis Reed.
Present.
Mike Vaught.
Here.
Jeff Phillips.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We need to approve the minutes of our June 11th, 2018 meeting. And since Mike is not here, Craig, will you?
Yes, sir. I'll make the motion that we do approve those minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve our June 11th, 2018 meeting minutes. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Could you, Mr. Chairman, who seconded that motion? We didn't catch that. Pettis did. Thank you.
Got to be a little quicker on the trigger there, Doug.
Yes, sir. It's Monday, sir.
I know it's Monday. We've had a couple of items withdrawn under final plat approval. 6A1 17-2081 Gerwick subdivision has been withdrawn. And under site plan approval, item 6B1 18-3014 exit 89 self-storage has been withdrawn. So we won't be dealing with those two subjects tonight. In front of you, we have, I think you all have a...
That's just for you. that was just for you.
We don't have it yet.
Well, no, I mean the plat is there if you want to do it now. Oh, you're talking about on the screen? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Pull it up now.
It's up there. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
On your screen, we've had a preliminary plan we need to deal with today, and I need a motion to suspend the rules for us to do that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. It's a preliminary plan, item 17-1015, Waldron Farms, Section 6, 26 lots, 23 of which are buildable on 14.78 acres, zoned RM, with a previously approved conditional use permit for a planned residential development located off Stones River Road. Mary Waldron Baird is the applicant.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and good morning, Planning Commissioners. Yes, this particular preliminary plan has actually been in the system for about a year or so. There were some issues with the drainage of this property, the alignment of the road. This was actually approved as a planned residential development, as Mr. Phelps was stating, under the old regulations as one of our older planned developments under the conditional use permit process. From that regard, this really isn't changed much from that. You know, the road alignment and whatnot shifted just a little bit, but this was always going to look like the way you're seeing it right now, as far as cul-de-sacing on either side. So with that, this has gone through several reviews. Our engineering staff is happy with it. Planning staff is happy with it. So we would recommend approval of this preliminary plan. And this would be the last section of this subdivision.
So it finishes out.
This finishes it out, yes, sir.
Okay.
Motion to approve, subject to all staff comments.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Take your time.
Doug, I can't read. There's asterisks on just about every lot. I can't read what the asterisk reference
I think
is.
that's, yeah, let me zoom down here. Yeah, this asterisk right here, all lots in this section require plot plans approved by Consolidated Utility District.
Not that they're critical lots or anything.
Right, right.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion to approve item 17-1015 Waldron Farms, Section 6, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Under new business, item 6A submitted for final plat approval. 6A1 has been withdrawn. 6A2, 18-2050, Mary Beth Meadows, 6 lots on 11.03 acres on RM, located off Leanna Swamp Road. Brad Smotherman is the applicant, Doug.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This may look familiar, at least the property and the location. The Planning Commission looked at this particular development back in June of last year. If you remember, there was substantially more lots. I'd say probably triple what they're showing on here right now with the public road, cul-de-sac. And that was approved by the Planning Commission back again in June of last year. During the construction plan phase, however, the drainage of the property just never could be worked out to staff's satisfaction. So essentially, that plan has kind of gone by the wayside, and now what you're seeing here is just 6 lots off of Swamp Leanna Road. Each one has its own road frontage. Each one could have its own driveway. These are fairly standard as far as the lot configuration is concerned. This lot here actually, lot 1, proposed lot 1, will have its own driveway connection. These other lots will actually share a driveway connection right through here. However, again, each one of these could put their own driveway on here. Quite frankly, staff prefers this alignment rather than having multiple cuts here along Swamp Leanna Road. They're just going to have one centralized road for them to use. That'll be maintained by their homeowners association. They'll have to establish to maintain that road. That'll not be a county road. So with that, the comments that we had on this have been addressed. We believe this plat is in good order, and we'd recommend approval. And we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Doug, lots 2 and 3, or it looks like 2 will have access to that driveway
Yes,
cut
right
also.
here. Yeah, this
Yeah,
shaded
3
area.
and 3
Yeah,
also.
yeah. Right. Yeah, the shaded area is denoting the access easement for it. Just calls it out a little clearer.
So really you end up with 2 driveway cuts.
Correct. You got this one wherever it'll be here, but you'll have a driveway cut here and then one over here. And again, like I said, these are standard. You know, I know we looked at one on Wayside Road a few months back that didn't have just a whole lot of road frontage. This one's got a substantial amount of frontage. So it wouldn't be difficult for each lot to put their own driveway if they wanted to. But in this situation, we think it makes more sense to do what they're proposing to do.
And you did say that it is written in the homeowner insurance that they maintain it, correct?
It'll have to be, yes, ma'am, because this is not going to be built to a county road standard. So this will be something they'll have to maintain. That's correct.
And lot 6 will have to use that easement as well and not be able to opt out as far as access or.
Well, as far as making them do it, you know, there's nothing that would say we would necessarily prohibit them from accessing that if they really wanted to. But I mean, it would really benefit them just as much as the other lots to share that one driveway. So I don't think we're necessarily prohibiting them from any of these lots from having their own driveway. This is just something that they want to do for the development.
Well, lots 2 and 3, will they have to maintain that part of the flag lot drive that they're not going to use? See, there's part of it, if they're not going to build their own drive, somebody's got to mow that. Is that in the HOA that they'll have to maintain that?
Well, it'll.
Part of one. It will look, visibly it will look like it's part of one if there's nothing, there's no fences or driveways or anything.
Right, yeah, just looking at it, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, right?
It'd say number 1 didn't cut his yard.
Oh, I see. You're saying it. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I would imagine, yeah, I see what you're saying. I would think that, yeah, if number 1 is doing, I mean, it all depends on how they structure it, quite frankly. You know, we wouldn't get involved on that end of things. So if they wanted, you know, if a covenant said, yes, you're going to maintain even if you're not using it, that would really be up to them and the person buying that. But I see where you're going. It would make more sense if really it was 2 through 6 that were maintaining all this instead of the ones using it and not lot 1. that just, yeah, that would be logical.
I'm thinking about our fence ordinance, it'll look really goofy if they put fences up too.
Yeah.
Awfully good neighbor to mow all that grass for us. maybe.
I've got some things like that, and.
And we
they won't
require
maintain
that language be put in there to make sure they mow what is deeded to them?
I think the way it's, yeah. I mean, I think you could just say, you know, provide, they actually did provide a copy of what their proposed restrictive covenants are going to be. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't look at it to the extent of, does it say anything about mowing? There was language in there about maintenance of that, so I figured it would fall under that, but.
But you know, too, we have just a regular code ordinance for. all
Yes,
that.
yes, we do.
So you could- if you needed to violate 2 and not 1 and 3, because they did both.
Right, right.
Little mowing could fall under maintenance.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was figuring, maintenance, mowing, those, I mean, they could, we could make sure that they, I mean, there's a representative here from that. I think they're getting the gist of your conversation. I'm sure that wouldn't be difficult to add in, nor would
That's
it.
the driveway.
Did you want us?
Ken Crowder, Martin Engineering. I can make sure that Mr. Smotherman ensures that those areas are mowed by the
I've already
homeowner.
thought about it, have you already talked about it?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, that's part, I mean, Lot 2, you know, it goes out to the front there. It's our expectation that they would mow that portion of Lot 2, and then Lot 3 would mow theirs, and then any combined on that easement would be taken care of by all the lots. Yes, ma'am. That's our preference and our thought when we did it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I mean, as I remember the law, you're allowed 3 on one driveway
Off private easement.
off a private easement.
Right, if
So
they're
are
being.
we doing 5 here? Do we need an exemption for this?
No, because what that law that you're talking about has to deal with when they don't have their own frontage.
They don't have their own.
Right. I mean, these all have frontage. They wanted to, they could all put driveways there. This is really more for convenience of the folks that live there, so I don't think this requires a waiver.
It's a better design aesthetic as well.
Yes,
More
I-
safety for that road, too.
Exactly, exactly. Which, you know, going back to the whole discussion we had on Wayside Road is what makes this issue a little more difficult to deal with because, you know, in that situation, you know, it didn't look, you know, aesthetically, it probably didn't look that good and it was challenging. In this one, it makes perfect sense to do that. So you can kind of see the challenges that lie there with that.
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to all staff comments.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve item 18-2050, Mary Beth Meadows. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 6A3, 18-2062, Robert R. and Leanne Kimberlin Division. 2 lots on 5.05 acres zoned RL, located off Joe Rowland Road. Robert and Leanne Kimberlin are the applicants. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As you can see on the screen, the applicant's proposing to split this property into 2 separate tracts. Right-of-way dedication is part of this, which does require Planning Commission approval. We did discuss that briefly at the end of last month's meeting. We've already, just kind of an update, and beside, we've already started looking through the subdivision regulations and making the proposed tweaks. We're hoping to have that to you within the next month or so. We've got still some of it to go through, but this is one of the issues that we're trying to clarify. At the time, this has actually been in the system for a couple months. The primary reason for the wait had to do with the soils information, just trying to determine how much soil was on the property. They finally have that information. A fire hydrant can be supported at this location, and so that will be taken care of. They will show that on the plat prior to it being recorded. But besides those issues, everything else has been addressed, and we recommend approval of this plat. It's in good order.
Motion to approve, subject to all staff comments.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 18-2062, Robert R. and Leanne Kimberlin subdivision. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 6A4, 18-2069, Cunningham Miller Road, 2 lots on 7.78 acres, zoned RM, located off Miller Road. Jimmy Johnson is the applicant. Doug?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This particular plat, as you stated, they're splitting this into 2 separate lots. Right-of-way dedication is involved, which is really the reason this is being brought here today, as you can see on the plat. After our initial review, all the comments that we had were addressed, so this plat, as you see it, is in conformance with our regulation, and we do recommend approval.
I move its approval, subject to staff comment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 18-2069 Cunningham Miller Road. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 6A5, 18-2070 Bobby and Connie Reeves partial combination, 1 lot on 3.99 acres, zoned RL, located off Morgan Road. Bobby and Connie Reeves are the applicants. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This particular piece of property, they're looking to combine the 2 tracts into one. They're also pursuing an application to the Board of Zoning Appeals. You can see on these are the 2 lots. You can see on here there's an existing repair garage. The actual structure itself actually received Board of Zoning Appeal approval several years ago in order to construct the accessory building prior to the principal. Since that time, they've been using it slowly. I think it developed into a kind of a repair shop. So the applicant lives, and the owner lives in the property immediately to the south. So he's pursuing an application to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a major home-based business for an auto repair. Of course, to do that, you have to live on the same property, so what we recommended he do is to combine the 2 parcels into one, with the understanding that that doesn't mean that the Board of Zoning Appeals would automatically guarantee that the application would be approved, but this would be the only way that this would work. So this is what they have done, and plus he said it really makes more sense to do it this way as far as having the 2. He owns them both anyway, so combining them both into one is the proper way to go here. There is really, this plat has met our conditions and requirements with that. Again, we'd recommend approval. The Board of Zoning Appeal action would be a separate item from this. So this, whatever you do here would have no impact on that.
Doug, one is the residence, and 2, 3, and 4 are just accessory structures on lot 1.
Correct. Right. Yeah, I think he's got a. On here, he must have a. Yeah, on right down here. Let me zoom in just a little bit. You can see he's kind of labeled here what they are. Block garage, shed, garden shed, smaller structures.
Doug, since the nearest fire hydrant is more than 1,000 feet away and they're not proposing any new construction, just because this is being combined does not require a fire hydrant to be installed, does it?
That's correct.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 18-2070 Bobby and Connie Reeves parcel combination. Any other questions?
I have a question, Doug. I just can't see it. At the bottom where you've got like buildings 3, 4, there's like a little triangle line that hatches through there. I can't tell what that line is.
Are you talking this line right here, Ms. Allen?
Yeah.
Okay. I think those are power lines, I think. Let me zoom in. I think it's overhead electric. Yeah, these are power electric lines. These are poles, and these would be electric lines.
Other questions? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. 6A6, 18-2071 Joseph and Linda Roberts Division, 3 lots on 18.12 acres, zoned RL, located off of Midland, Fosterville Road. Joseph and Linda Roberts are the applicants. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The purpose of this plat really is just to shift some property lines around. You can kind of see down here, these were some existing property lines. They've kind of shifted the lines around a little bit. They've made this into a subdivision lot, and it required right-of-way dedication, which is why this is really here today. This is an acreage tract in the back and an existing parcel right next door. There were several comments that we had on this, but after looking at the revisions that were made, quite frankly, this is in good shape. There will be a fire hydrant within 1,000 feet of this lot, so no waivers are required for this. So with that, we'd recommend approval.
So this is going from 3 plots, or 4 to 3, right? Or
Basically, yes. It's actually kind of combining and just shifting some lot lines around. Yes, ma'am.
How do you access 3?
There's a access easement. I'm sorry, 3. Well, there's 1, 2, and 4. There's an access easement. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's an access easement right through here that's existing that they use for access here. It was accessed through here, but this is being abandoned as part of that, and they would just use this.
I move for approval with staff comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 18-2071 Joseph and Linda Roberts Division.
I just have one question. On the ones on our iPad, these lots are numbered 1, 2, 3, but on the screen they're labeled 1, 2, 4.
Where did you say they were labeled 1, 2, 3? I'm sorry.
On the pad, they're labeled 1, 2, 3, but on the one on the screen, you've got 1, 2, 4.
Okay. Oh, I think one of our comments was, I think because Lot 3 was kind of technically going away, so we just told them just to use it. The Lot 4 was already kind of, Tract 4, whatever you want to call it, was already there, so we just had to keep the numbers the way they were. Yeah. Right. It's I agree, it's a little confusing, but that was the reason why.
Other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All those in favor of that motion? We already said that, I'm sorry. Motion to approve carries. Thank you.
That's right, the first one.
Okay. 6A7, 18-2075. Victor Estrella, 2 lots on 2.98 acres, zone RL, located along Christiana Road, which is Highway 269. Victor Estrella is the applicant. This includes a waiver to the off-site soil requirement. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As you can see, this is right now it's one tract of land. What they're looking to do is create 2 more lots off of this, leave the remaining acreage here, 6.7 acres. The issue that they're going to run into isn't so much with this lot here, Lot 1. It's no structures on it. It's this Lot 2. You know, they do have 50 foot at the road, so this is a usable lot. The issue they're going to run into, and again, there's 50 foot right here, which allows them access to the remaining property back through here. There's an existing garage and some outbuildings here on the property, and also this garage is in violation, what would be violation of the setback ordinance. Now, the applicant is aware that they're going to have to make a Board of Zoning Appeal application to have the accessory building prior to the principal structure on the property, as well as the fact that this is going to be within the setback. On top of all that, you can see there's an existing soils easement right through here, and there's a tight line easement for the use of Lot 2 to an existing septic area. So before this is ever recorded, they're going to have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for these structures. And then, of course, then we'd allow them to record the plat after that, but they're having this off-site soil easement issue as well. So it's a little more complicated plat. There's a lot going on this one, but again, whatever action's taken here wouldn't affect the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals. It's just something that they know that they do have to go through.
So are they going to have 3 driveways?
Based on this, there's not an easement between them, so I would say yes, they probably would. There is an existing drive, you can see it right here. There's an existing driveway that goes down to the existing structures and everything. So I guess if they wanted to, they could do cross-access between those. We wouldn't have a problem with that, but they would have to show that on the plat.
Okay. this tight line, it's coming off of, does 2 need more? Is that the one that needs more?
Yeah, it's tight line easement for Lot 2, and so this would be for benefit of the Lot 2.
Okay, you got existing house and,
Right, and they have an existing system right here for the
that
house
goes
and then
for
the house.
what's there.
Mhm. So apparently the soil that's here is not quite enough for another structure, another house on that property.
But where's the soil site?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, where's the soil site?
Well, this is soil site for Lot 2. This is soil site for Lot 1, and there's an existing SSDS system right here for the existing house.
But
It's
what,
just a curtain drain easement, isn't it, Doug? Curtain drain
what's
drain?
Outlet.
it says
Outlet.
tight line easement for lot 2 though,
Mm-hmm.
and curtain drain outlet.
So is it a tight line,
Off.
Jim, for
This
the
is
curtain
electrical line right
drain,
here.
or is it? It's not actually off-site soils, is it?
I guess it's the easement for the curtain, yeah, for the, I guess, yeah, I see what you're saying. The curtain drain to get off of Lot 2.
Like drain.
Yeah. Right.
So 2 has plenty of soils,
That's the way I look at it.
perhaps.
Well, it's graphed off there, it's bigger than what's on 1.
Yeah, I mean, they're showing 75 MPI, about 6,300 square foot, and existing soil about 7,200 square foot. Because, yeah, there's an existing system right through here, as you can see.
Yeah.
But
Septic tank too.
I think for our purposes, I mean, the regulations, talk about easements and easements for benefit of other lots being off their property. So I think that's kind of how we were looking at it.
The existing soils that are on lot 2, are they serving the existing building on lot 2? Or are they serving the existing house on the original tract?
Yeah, the applicant is present. We might want to call them up to possibly shed a little light on this, because that's, to be completely honest with you, Mr. Vaught, I'm not exactly sure, because there is an existing system here.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
right where you are.
Mhm.
And is there are there backup soils on the original tract there?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, adequate soils for backup system too.
Right.
And if that curtain drain is not there now, right? Or
I
it
think,
is there?
it appears to me that it looks like it is.
Okay,
Drawn in there and recorded.
okay, what's to keep them, a curtain drain is a nice ditch.
Mhm.
What's to keep them from blocking that? I mean, they're going down, they're going up, and
Right,
this lot
well,
back here, which is not numbered, I don't believe.
yeah, it's remaining acreage. They didn't have to number the remaining. I think that's one of the issues that really highlights why
Right.
these easements can sometimes be problematic, these offsite soils, and even if it's not just soils or if it's a tight line easement or anything like that. Because obviously after it's recorded, we have no control over it. And
Yeah, they'll have to cross that curtain drain and then fill it
Yeah,
up,
which,
gravel it.
as
fill
I
it up.
understand it, and I hope I'm not speaking wrong, but as I understand it, the driveways over tight lines isn't so much the issue. It's when they're over the soil sites that becomes more an issue. We've dealt with some other site plans and things where you see like a tight line under a parking lot or something like that. As long as the line itself is encased and everything is fine, that's not so much the issue. It's just obviously you can't pave over somebody's soil site. That's not going to work. But the tight lines, I
this
don't
is a
think are
curtain
quite
drain.
as right. Tight lines, curtain drains. Yeah, but if, like you say, if it's like a ditch and somebody fills
It's a
in the
ditch.
ditch, then it's not doing what it's supposed to do.
If it's filled
Right.
in.
So that can become a problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody want to hear from the applicant?
Yes.
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Please come up. Ready for some questions?
I'm trying. I'm a little bit nervous, and my accent is a little bit hard, so I asking for your patience to understand it. Sure.
The curtain drain that's on the remaining acreage, is that curtain drain already there now? Is that ditch there now, or is it going to, you got to install that?
We got to the stop.
You got to install it. Okay, when you install that, it will be inspected by,
Yeah, they'll have to pull the proper permits
Permits
from
to
the
be
TDEC off.
inspected.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
okay, will they up here tell them that they cannot fill the curtain drain?
I would hope so.
Is that,
Yes,
is
sir.
that our out right here?
I mean, I think so. I mean, that the purpose of it is to, like you said, drain, the water away. So I would say that they would tell them that. That would be part of
You
whatever.
understand? Can't fill that curtain drain. You got to keep it open.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Have you all discussed maybe sharing a driveway instead of having three individual driveways? I'm concerned about safety on Christiana Road, having 3 outlets coming out onto the road. Have you talked about, because it looks like the way you've got access to the property in the back, when we were just talking about, looks like you could create a way for everybody to access and share that driveway going out. That way you only have 1 outlet instead of 3.
The driveway goes into there.
Yeah, we're
and the
planning
driveway goes
just
there. There's already one
share
there.
for 2 houses, but the individual one on the one house
One up
in the
here.
other side, not on the same side.
You're gonna have to.
Okay, right, but that's what I was saying, is there a
Unless
way
she wants-
for
unless she
you all
wants
to
this
share
one
the
to go
same
there.
one?
Maybe what she's
For all
saying
3
is
of you to
trying
share the
use
same
this.
one is what I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
that's what
That way
she's
you all
saying.
kind of pull out into the same, so you only have 1 outlet instead of having multiple driveways. It's such a busy road, which from a safety standpoint, I'm concerned about having so many outlets there.
It's not really visible.
Typical Christianity.
That's a state numbered road.
That's correct.
I assume some state funding or majority state funding or something. Do they have to, I know on Highway 96, we've had to get a driveway permit. Do
Yes.
they have to get one on?
They would have to.
these?
Yes, they would have to as well. Yes, sir. I mean, it would be possible. I think if I understand what she was saying, these 2 lots here, because you can see there's an existing drive right here. These 2 lots, this one and this one in the back, would share the same driveway, which is existing. And I think if we understood what she was saying, that they'd put another driveway probably over here. Is that kind of what you were saying? Yeah. So, which would require a permit. I mean, this one's already there. So, I mean, either way, if we wanted to have them have some sort of a cross-access easement, I mean, that'd be easy to build into the plat. We could just kind of like we saw in the Maribeth Meadows, they could just do a little thing right across here, or even just put a note on a plat, cross-access easement between lots 1, 2, and the remaining acreage.
I mean, that's what I was remembering,
Right.
just the one we just looked at.
Right.
Making sure we're-
On the field line.
That would be my first instructor, just from a safety
Sure.
standpoint. And then they would have to get permits.
Then they would have to get TDOT permits, correct? Yeah.
That'd be the easier one.
I think it would certainly be good at the back too. Sure.
Which one?
Any other questions for the applicant?
That's what she said.
Thank you.
Driveway for all 3. It's all right, Miss Daisy.
Doug, say again, how many variances we have to have for the soil, and what about the fire hydrant?
Well, I think the fire hydrant will be fine. There's, if I remember, that there's not one there now, but there's with an 8-inch line. I think the ability is there. They weren't requesting a fire hydrant waiver, and I'm pretty sure we heard back from CUD on this one that this was okay. So really, it's just this offsite easement, or the offsite easement for this tight line, or the curtain drain rather. The variances are totally separate to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Really, it's this existing garage, first of all, being within the setback, and then the fact that it's an accessory structure where there's no principal structure right now. As right now, it's all one lot, so you've got a house and you've got structures. That's not a problem. That's fine. Even the location of this, even though it's in front of the house, this lot's large enough and this is far enough back that this is not in violation of any setbacks. But if you record this plat, it becomes that. So that's why it would have to go to the board for variance before we would recommend, or we'd sign a plat for it to be recorded.
And when you said that opposing soils would monitor the issue with the curtain drain, that's not anything that we would look at as we go from a codes and building standpoint. That's not anything that we would make note of as we go out there to make sure that it's.
Well, with any new construction, I'm sure that's something that they would ensure as they were going about it. Now, of course, the TDEC folks also sign off on the plat. So, you know, I don't think they'd sign off on it unless everything are up to their standards. So I feel pretty comfortable with that.
This is a very busy part of Christiana Road because it's right next to the highway.
Mhm.
It's just one lot back right there, and that's where people are coming and going a lot.
Mhm.
What does it cost them to get permits?
I think the biggest expense will be the safety head walls on the pipe, the ditch, and that I don't think that the permit for the inspection actually, like, for the inspector to come out costs unless, is it? I don't think so. Okay. I don't think that permit to get someone out there to look at it is. It's just the safety head walls that are required are quite expensive.
So, like I said, one's better than two.
Correct. From a cost standpoint, yes. Yes.
Head walls will cost them about $4,000 a piece, and you'll need 2 of them for each driveway.
One's better than two.
One's better than 2.
Yeah, this is exactly, if you come off 231, if any of you ever been out to Miller's, and you turn off of 231 onto 269 going that direction, this is not very far. You don't get to the railroad tracks or any of that. It's all the way back here, so that tells you where this is. So.
It's probably the busiest part of the road, probably, yeah.
Doug, have we answered the question whether the existing soil site on Lot 2 will remain with the existing house? Is it part of it or what?
I don't think so because there's no easement. This is not identified as an easement for the remaining acreage. Since they have an existing soil system here, there's nothing on this plat that would indicate that this soil area is being reserved for the existing house. This looks like new soil identified for this particular lot, like this is for Lot 1. So the only note on here about
The existing septic tank that is on Lot 2, what does it service then? Where's the tank for the original lot?
the original, I mean, I'm assuming,
I mean, I don't-
you know,
I don't think different.
yeah, no, I know, but
It doesn't appear that we have enough soils on the existing lot unless that part behind the house is soils, but it's not identified. You see the
Yeah,
existing house
yeah.
and then to the southeast of that.
right, this little square right here, or whatever you want to call that.
Where's the soils for this?
And Mr. I can't really answer that question. I agree with you. There's not enough on here. This tank, it doesn't say which one, unless it's for one of these existing buildings
Yeah,
here.
it's unclear.
It doesn't say, so.
And right above where you've got the little pointer right now. you know,
What's
there's
this?
That,
Yeah.
that block, is that soils or is it not?
Well, we're
I
not
would assume it
looking at
is,
that,
but it's
are
not
we?
identified.
We're just looking at that, right?
Yeah.
I just want to be sure there are adequate soils remaining
Mhm.
with the existing house.
If, you know, I know this, it might be better at this point that we just defer action on this. Let us get a little more information from the applicant and the surveying crew. And then, yeah, make a, like you said, list of questions, just to make sure that,
That soil site you're pointing to, pardon me now, it is the soil site for lot number 2. No, the
Which one?
crosshatch stuff there.
this right here. Yeah,
Yeah.
this would be what's shown for Lot 2. This would be what's shown for Lot 1.
All right.
So,
Then I'm with Mike, what's the existing SSD what does it service?
right, well, and that's, I think that's kind of what we need to find out, because if this is part of the existing house, because this is the septic tank right here, it doesn't make, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense for the septic tank for the house to have to go up here all the way back to the soil site. To me, I wonder if this isn't for one of these structures here.
If it is not the tank
Should
for
be
the house,
1,000.
where is the
That's
tank?
her.
Right, right. So I
You would
think,
assume it would be close to the house, but it's not noted on there.
right.
Doug, I also note that says it's 1,140 feet from the nearest hydrant.
Correct.
So wouldn't it have to have a waiver?
Well, we were talking about that earlier. This is an 8-inch line, and if I remember correctly, we did get a determination from CUD that this line can support a hydrant, so they would have to install one. That would have to be shown on the plat. So, yeah, a fire hydrant
they
waiver
have to
wasn't
put one in.
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it wasn't part. The waiver for that wasn't part of the application.
Make a motion to defer action until we get our other questions answered.
And we should be able to have this figured out by the night meeting. We can put this on the night meeting without much of an issue.
That'd be driveway connection and sanitary.
Correct.
It may help the applicant if somebody can host and steal comes.
Okay.
Mm.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to defer item 18-2075 for Victor Estrella. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to defer, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition to that motion? The motion to defer carries. Thank you. Doug, on that lot number 2, is there room to build a house?
It'll be tight. I mean, looking at it, just because of the existing structures and everything on there, it'll be a little tight.
I for one would like to see where they're going to put the house on that, maybe on that plot as well.
We can have that.
Or if they're gonna tear down something in order to put a house or whatever.
Just where it's going to go. There's an existing building of some kind. I'm assuming that's probably where the house is going to go or something, but I'd just like to see where it fits on that lot.
Okay, we can take care of that.
Thank you. Item 6A8, 18-2077, Steve and Lisa Perry. One lot on 2.7 acres, zoned RM, located along Roy Arnold Road. Wayne Todd Pope is the applicant. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The applicant is proposing to subdivide about a little over 2.5 acres off of the parent tract. They are showing a little bit of right-of-way dedication. What you can see here is basically a flag lot, pretty standard. Building location, proposed location, soils area, everything on here. We did have several comments on this after our initial review. Those comments have been addressed. We had just a couple of really just minor things after the initial review, just a couple of tweaks to it after the initial review, which were taken care of as part of our second review. So those comments have also been addressed. This plat's actually in pretty good order, so we'd recommend approval.
Make a motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 18-2077, Steve and Lisa Perry. Other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 6A9, 18-2079, Robert J. Connor, one lot on 3.4 acres, zone RM, located at the intersection of Epps Mill Road and Manchester Highway. Robert J. Connor is the applicant. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The applicant's proposing to subdivide about 3.5 acres off of the parent tract, leaving about close to 11 acres remaining, as you can see on the plat that's on your screens. There is a proposed fire hydrant that has been identified right in this area. This is actually this is going to be part of a water line improvement project that CUD has recently executed a contract on and should be start work in the next few weeks. The whole project itself will take about 2 years, although this particular portion of it they think will be done prior to that. So probably within about a year or so, from my understanding with conversation with CUD, that this hydrant would be installed. The applicant is asking for a waiver to the fire hydrant requirement simply because this is on its way. This isn't something that's conceptual, and the fact that it might be there in the next 5 years. This is coming. It's just a matter of getting it constructed and just waiting for the project to move forward. From staff standpoint, we're okay with that. I did discuss this with Larry Farley, our fire chief. He's here and he can kind of nod in the affirmative that we did talk about that and he was comfortable with that. But so with that, we'd be happy to answer any other questions. Beyond that situation, the plat itself is in good order.
I know that doesn't have to, but I'm just curious, are there soils to support the remaining 10.8 acres?
Well, it's nothing, like you said, nothing shown on the plat because it's remaining acreage. They wouldn't have to. My understanding is they're looking to possibly rezone this remaining area down through here.
It'll be commercial before it's over with.
Right. So, I mean, nothing.
Or industrial.
That's one reason I asked.
Yeah. No application's been made yet, but that's my understanding is kind of what they're thinking about
And
doing.
sanitary sewers right there at Love's.
That is correct. That is correct.
It is at Love's there.
Yes. I think they actually built it where they built that new access road back into Barrett's. If I remember right, the sewer actually goes down that access road just a little ways as well.
Is our goal here, and I think Chip's going to ask about the same thing, is our goal here to cut the house off from the
Yes.
other track and keep the house as a house?
Right, because this is the house right here. That's correct. Now, I can't speak to what the applicant's intentions are long-term, but from what I understand, this was going to be, like you said, kind of where the existing house is. This would just remain residential for at least the time being, and then this would be what you would ask for commercial at some point in the future.
And Chip and I were discussing, you won't need access to lot 1 from Epps-Mill then?
No.
Okay.
No, there's already an existing driveway here.
There's no need for that?
No,
Because it'd be going across your soils.
Correct, yeah. And right now, they already have an existing driveway to the house right here. If you remember when we rezoned property to the south, southeast, I guess, Miss Benz's property, you remember that we left about, well, you can kind of see where the zoning line is, kind of parallel with that. All this back through here is zoned EAC, and this is RM. So this is kind of consistent with what was done with Miss Benz's property.
Just proposed to carry through with that.
Yeah.
On the area that's the remaining, the 10.8, it says 30-foot permanent CUD easement, see note 14. There is no note 14 that I can find.
This is lot 1, 2, and 4, remember?
Ron, where is that you're talking about? I'm trying to find where you're.
See where Epps-Mill Road is labeled 50-foot right over?
Right here,
Go
yes.
straight down.
Oh, I see it now. Okay. Oh, okay.
30-foot permanent CUD easement.
Yeah, well, I think Len's still here. Yeah, you can catch that? Okay.
So what's the note?
Yeah. Do you see what she's talking about, Len? There's a note, it says, C note 14, about a CUD, permanent 30-foot CUD easement. There's just no note 14 here, is all.
Okay, I didn't add that on.
Okay, yeah, just if
Okay,
you.
I will add that note, not a problem.
Thank you.
And I believe if it is the intention of the subdivider, the owner, to keep that house and that 3.5 acres as residential. That would not be a part of a request for any rezoning application.
Thank you.
Make motion approved.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a,
Subject to all staff comments.
we have a motion and a second to approve item 18-2079, Robert J. Connor.
Remaining already.
Other questions, please?
They're gonna build a house there.
All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries.
Doug, I have a question. I mean, the way this shook out, based on Mr. Leonard's, what he said there, we've got, even though we don't have it in the regs, based on what we did on the Ben's property, which is, I guess, adjacent or one over from this, we've kind of got an unofficial zoning that says we're not going to do anything commercial on Manchester Highway due to it being a historic highway, scenic highway, or whatever the classification is. Is that what I can understand from this?
Well, if you remember when we went through the zoning for Ms. Benz's property, there were several property owners in the area that their main concern was the appearance of Manchester Highway and, not wanting to see just like larger, commercial type structures right along the frontage. So that was kind of a compromise that they came to, was, okay, we're going to leave this part of it off.
And that was voluntary.
That was voluntary, yeah, we didn't make them do that, so,
I think
yeah.
they had a good
yeah.
point when they pointed that out, though.
Right. Now, that being said, it looks like maybe that kind of set the, the precedent, if you will, for
So
what
that-
we'd
I
like
mean,
to
this
see
is a
in that area.
voluntary thing, but we've taken no action.
Right, right, yeah, and,
I think it's a plus.
right, and nothing would stop either this property owner that we just talked about, or even Ms. Benz, if she wanted to come back in and try to rezone the property to commercial or some sort of commercial or industrial designation. If you remember right, when Ms. Benz's property came in, when we made our recommendation as staff, we recommended approval of the whole property just because of its location, near the interchange. There's only so much, potential industrial type property in the county, and this is one of those nodes that was identified in the comprehensive plan. But that, at the same time, I don't necessarily have any real issue with trying to maintain a corridor, and Rhonda and I, we've talked about that, about the possibility even taking that a step further, about when we look at our major thoroughfare plan update, about including some discussion in there, not just about Manchester Highway, but looking at all the different arterials that come in, trying to.
Other character areas.
Correct. That way.
That's a great point. I thought we reached a reasonable compromise.
Right.
Any contact with the state as to any rework of that exit out there? And
Not from we have reached out to them and talked about that. They actually did some preliminary studies and determined, now this has been a few years ago at this point, but the last time we talked to them about it, they had done some traffic studies out there and determined that what was out there was adequate, that there really didn't need to be any major improvements. Now, that being said, if you start seeing some sort of a major industrial, commercial type user wanting to look at this intersection or this interchange, then, I think that changes things. But, just looking at the traffic the way that it is right now, that's the determination that they came to at the time. So.
The only other comment I was going to add from Mike is, I think as we do update the major thoroughfare plan, we need to make sure that we add some structure, some regulations around protecting those character areas, because not everybody's going to volunteer to do it, and we're going to have a hard time saying can't if we don't have something, the old policy, you have what you have because of the policies you have, we can't protect that area if we don't have policies to protect it.
Yeah, I thought the neighbors made a great point. I couldn't see denying Ms. Benz all of hers, because you've got 3 other corners at Epsom Hill and 24 that are zoned that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought we reached a good compromise on that. I thought they made a great point that they want to keep that 41 Manchester Highway kind of scenic, and it does have a sort of a historic designation there, the Dixie Highway, I think, correct?
You done?
I'm off my box.
Okay. Item 6A10, 18-2080, Nature Walk, Section 1, Phase 2. 19 lots on 4.83 acres, zoned PUD, located Beulah Rose Drive. A&R Land Investments is the applicant. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The preliminary plan for this subdivision was approved by the commission back in January of 2014. This plat, for the most part, is consistent with that. I will point out one change. This is actually what they're proposing to do, and you will see this coming next month as a PUD amendment. Excuse me. They're actually going to have a small street here and about 7-8 lots right here, just a small cul-de-sac is what they're proposing to do. They had a little extra area here that they determined that could be used for this purpose. As far as the the lot layout, the house, nothing else is changing with that. But that's why this was a lot right in here originally, and that's why you kind of see this look like a road right away. But again, this will be coming before you, at least for the Planning Commission public hearing in August. So just to be aware of that.
What makes 37 and 38 critical lots?
The stream buffer back in this area. You can see here that there's the center line of the existing stream buffer through this area. So because of that, we just wanted to see those as critical lots in this area. Beyond that, I'm sorry, beyond that, We did have a number of comments. Those comments have been addressed. The plat's in good order, besides that one issue that I brought up.
So the cut that they made to the new area, basically they gave up lot 31?
Correct.
So they're not labeling that future area as lot 31?
No, yeah, there'll be additional lot numbers here. And actually, Katie had just said something, they didn't renumber this. I said, well, if they do that, that changes the lots of everything moving forward. So, I mean, yeah, it's a little unusual to skip a lot, but in this case, it's either that or they'd have to renumber everything else.
I just want to make sure we weren't grabbing that whole land mass now as...
Oh, right, yeah, no, ma'am. No, actually, they're losing a lot, and I think that the net's going to be 7 increase. It's not a very large change, what they're looking at. Or it's not, they're adding 9, it's only one difference. It's not much.
Where's our drainage?
It met all of our requirements. It was in good order.
Drain back to an existing.
But yeah, there's a stream right here. It all, wow.
Our mouse
Yeah.
working real well.
There, it goes all, these all go back.
Doug, question. On the bottom of, at the end of Beulah Rose Drive, it makes right there, that stone 43-foot radius turnaround. The fact that the stream is right there to the south, will there be a continuation of this subdivision across the stream, you think?
Yeah, actually, in the next section we look at here in a couple plans.
Oh, okay,
you'll see
okay,
it.
all right.
Yeah, they'll have to put a big, bridge culvert in there.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve with staff comments.
Thank you. Second. We have a motion and a second to approve 18-2080 Nature Walk Section 1, Phase 2. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 6A11, 18-2081 Walnut Downs, Section 1, 46 lots on 24-plus acres, Zone RM, located on Walnut Grove Road. Stewart Springs is the applicant. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The preliminary plan for this subdivision was approved by the Commission back in November of 2016. This final plat is consistent with that approved plan. Again, we did have several comments on this after our initial review. Those comments have all been addressed. Really, there's nothing outstanding at this point. This plat's in good order. We'd recommend approval.
Unless there's questions, I would make a motion to approve, subject to any staff comments that remain.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 18-2081 Walnut Downs, Section 1. Other questions or comments? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Then motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 6A12, 18-2083 Nature Walk, Section 2, 47 lots on 26.83 acres, Zone PUD, located Beulah Rose Drive. A&R Land Investments is the applicant. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And Mr. Cush, this kind of gets back to what you were just talking about. There's
Right.
that little right there, and you can see the bridge over the creek here. And then the extent, this is actually a 2-page final plat. This is going to go down all the way to Highway 96. So there will be a connection all the way from Shores Road to Highway 96. That was always part of the design for this. We're glad to see that because now this gives this subdivision a way in from the south and a way in from the north. So we're happy with that. Again, this particular plat, actually after the initial review and comments sent, they addressed everything that we had asked. So this plat's in good order and we'd recommend approval.
Will these phases, will one come before the other, or are they going to work on these both at the same time? Did they talk to you about a timetable?
They haven't talked to me personally. The fact that we've had construction drawings on both and they're getting ready to record both, they've been out there working on it, so it's...
I think they have an approved ARAP for the bridge already as well.
They do,
so.
okay.
Is the drainage good? I hate to ask that and be the one that asks that every time, but I know there's a good bit of standing water over the years on this property. I'm assuming we can get the water out of there and not affect the neighbor.
Yes, sir. We have extensively looked at the construction drawings, and we have pads for the houses that we felt just to make sure that the drainage falls away from the houses if there was any concern.
That's good.
Does all of it drain to the creek, or is there a holding area for these?
There's a sediment basin on, I think it was the other plat, there are detention pond that'll go there before it hits the creek for more of a quality. They also use it for volume control, but it's more for quality. I do actually think we looked at this from a volume sensitive area as well as the pre versus post from a quantity.
Can you go back to the other page that shows lot 115?
Yeah.
There's a note that says,
Oh, yeah, that note has to do with no access onto Highway 96.
well, but on that,
Is that what you're
which
talking
I
about?
was fine with, but on 24 it says lot 115 is not allowed to access Beulah Rose Drive. So is it?
We wanted to see the driveway onto Dan Cherry, excuse me.
I was
Yeah.
just concerned that that was allowing it to go to 96.
Right, right, yeah. And actually, we hadn't put the note on there to 96, but if you look here, there's actually a little bit of common area through here. So these technically aren't corner lots in the sense that they're corners on Franklin Road. So that was really more, right, they would have had to have, we didn't want to see the driveway that close to the intersection here, so that's why we asked for it to be off of Dan Cherry, excuse me.
Doug, one quick question, maybe it's not quick, but usually someone from SEC's here, and I know Huddleston Steel's always here.
Yep. Yeah,
In case there are questions that come up about certain things, can you explain, or anybody explain why they're not here today?
Well, actually, someone from SEC is here.
Okay.
Now, as far as why someone from Huddleston is not, I don't know.
It's okay. They're usually here, though, and I know summer vacation and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and I will say this, the last time this issue came up, we did send a memorandum to the different engineering firms saying, hey, you really need to have somebody here in case there's questions. But, obviously.
And they usually are.
Yes, yes.
I just didn't see a familiar face from SEC out there, so they're also on 11 and 12, one's RM and one's PUD.
Yes. There's, let's see, 11, 12. Yeah, 11 was not a planned development. Walnut Downs, that's what you're talking about? Yeah, Walnut Downs was just a conventional subdivision.
Okay.
This Nature Walk was a PUD. This was actually all originally part of Spring House. And then at one time, after the Spring House was approved, and there's still some sections of Spring House, but then they came back for I guess you'd say the southern portion of Spring House and made it a planned development. Yes.
Okay.
One thing I'd like to say, where it's coming out back on 96 right there, this is also in that same section, where Deer Run is. It's
Yes.
in that area. Coleman Hill's in there too. If you remember the situation we had about where they was trying to put in storage units out there, this is exactly in that same area where
That's
we've
right.
got all the people marching forward about the traffic and whatever. We're doing it. We're going to be adding right there as far as traffic is concerned. If there's anybody in here that has any type of influence with the state of Tennessee as far as doing anything with Highway 96, we need to be moving on that. I do know Highway 96 is on the state's wish list. I've seen it in their book and whatever there, but when we add this much, when this is completed and add that much more traffic in that one spot right there, it'll add quite a bit of traffic, because right in this area right here is a hilly part of the roads. And I think this is one thing that'll come back to us at some time. So I don't know, when I pulled up the location map right there and looked at it, I saw it right quick, and this is something that'll catch us.
This area does get turn lanes onto 96, so there'll at least be that.
That was my next question.
Yes,
What about
yes,
the
sir.
turn lanes on this?
Yes, sir. We have seen the construction drawings for that. So.
Okay.
The state's on board. Good with.
Right, they have to get approved construction plans from us, and then they sign off on it.
So that will, pardon me, that'll affect McNeil Drive too then. Will the turn lanes work both ways?
Are they? Yes.
They would have.
Yes.
They'd almost have to.
Other questions?
Have we had a motion, or are you looking for a motion? Make a motion to approve. Bingo.
Mike made a motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve 18-2083 Nature Walk, Section 2, 47 lots on 26.83 acres. All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. If I'm not mistaken, that's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of another 120 lots or so today.
Today?
Roundabout.
Yeah, that's probably, yeah, that, you're pretty close. Yes, sir.
Need to build no school.
Item 6B, submitted for site plan approval. 6B1 has been withdrawn. 6B2, the item number is 18-3017, Las Casas Baptist Church parking lot expansion, new construction of a 3,300 square foot pavilion and fire pit and 109 parking spaces on 18.8 acres zoned RM located off Las Casas Pike and Barlow Lane. Las Casas Baptist Church is the applicant. Doug.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This site probably looks familiar as well as some of the other ones. We looked at a site plan for the church and this parking area back in January of this year. The original plan just showed parking. It didn't show the proposed pavilion, and they're expanding the parking area. If the pavilion was under 3,000 square feet total area, we could have approved it administratively, but any additions or new buildings over 3,000 square feet, that's kind of our cutoff. So anything larger than that has to come back for approval, which is why this is coming before you today. We did have a number of comments on this. Quite frankly, when we received our comments back, the plans in of themselves were in pretty good order. There was just a few minor tweaks that they needed to do. Those tweaks have been made. This is actually a very good set of plans, and we'd recommend approval of that.
On the page before this, on the iPad, in the project description, it says that it's a 2,400 square foot pavilion.
Well, the pavilion's 24, and then there's this fire pit area right here.
That's what put it
Right,
over.
that's what put it over. Yeah, sorry, thank you.
Will this have lights on it initially once it's?
You talking interior lights?
No, I'm talking about the parking lot. Will it
Oh, the
be-
parking lot lights?
And you're looking at a.
I don't
just a
think.
Big
No,
dark
they're
area
not.
out there and-
Yeah, they're not proposing. If they did, they'd have to submit a photometric plan with it.
Doug, you may have additional plans that may call out the specs for this pavilion, but when I think of a pavilion, I think of a wood timber open construction with a roof like you would see at Barfield Park. Is that similar in nature?
Yeah, that's the applicant's nodding in affirmative.
Okay.
That's what they're expecting.
So why would we want to put a fire pit right next to a big giant bunch of kindling? Why would we not want to have them move the fire pit away from the structure?
It's actually not. It's a steel structure. It's not wood.
Okay.
The legs are steel.
The columns are steel.
Correct. The fire pit's actually about 20 feet out from it, and it's not a like fire pit.
Well,
fire
I mean,
pit.
from this drawing, it looks like the whole square is a. 30,
Oh no
30 by
It's
30 fire
concrete
pit.
with a fire pit in the middle.
I got you.
Big enough for youth group to sit around and make s'mores. And there's no parking lot lights.
It's up to the applicant. We wouldn't require
It's
that.
out in the middle of nowhere. The building will have lights on it, but the parking lot itself, there's a subdivision over there, and we didn't want to have to bother their backyards with parking lot lights.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily a big fan. I know what you're saying, but I was just like, if you're gonna have Sunday night access, that's all I was thinking.
Well, it's
I think teenage drivers. I think lights.
Yeah.
That's the connection. In my head.
there'll be really good lighting on the corners of the building.
You'll figure out pretty quickly if it's gonna work.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve. I have a question. and Gail to know that I am gonna participate in, but I am gonna participate in the discussion, but I am not gonna vote. I'm not gonna vote. The proposed stormwater management area, there is a drain that comes down through the center of this property. And I just wanna make sure we don't make a mistake here because of my familiarity with the property and living out there all of my life. There is a drain, a natural drain that comes down through that area. And I think this stormwater management area is above that drain, but it does not need to be in that drain or nor close to it. Because in a flood like we had in 2010, the sinkholes at Barlow Lane fill up and it will come eventually down through there and it'll actually fill that whole corner up there. I've seen it do it twice in my lifetime. Yeah, it fills all of that up. And it looks like to me, based on this, it's out of the bottom of the drain, but that drain does not need to be impeded upon, that natural drain, without something under. Because if we do, it'll affect the back part of the property as well as on that Barlow Lane. I've seen water flow from essentially Hoover Road across Barlow Lane 4 or 5 times. And then end up down here when the sinkholes get full enough.
Yes, we definitely evaluated this for all of our stormwater quantity and quality requirements. Made sure that the drain outlet is where it needed to be.
No, but I'm talking about the natural drain down to the field.
Correct.
I just want to
Right
make sure
here.
it doesn't stop it up.
Yes, sir. They have to evaluate 2 downstream structures with any drainage, stormwater, any plans that we see. So they've looked at the 2 downstream.
This would be upstream.
Oh,
We'll be blocking the upstream from of a natural drain.
Okay.
That does not contain water all the time.
I think Mike needs to see a stake in the dirt to know where it is.
That's almost it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I've seen that whole corner fill full of water, all the way up to the road bed, twice. And if we affect that drain, we'll actually affect that subdivision back up Barlow Lane, a good bit of that open farmland that's up there. And we'll also affect the back side of the church property here, and we certainly don't want to dam that up.
I withdraw my motion until this can be clarified.
I guess my question is, if we approve this, and the stakes are over in that drain, can we make an adjustment?
Yes, there can always be field changes. Yes, sir.
Okay. Then I'm good with it. I just wanted to point all that out.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't want the church making a mistake, but I will not be voting.
I'll make a motion to defer it to it.
No, I think it'd take too long.
Take too long to get a stake done?
Well, I think we'll be good. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that we didn't need to put that retention pond in the bottom of that drain
Well,
or stop it up.
Okay, we'll make a motion to approve it, subject to comments that
if you
Mike
just,
made.
yeah, I mean, I think if you just make it to staff comments, I mean, I understand, and I know you all realize this, but even after it's approved, you know, they just don't go out there and start working and they say, well, the plan says this, even if we know something's wrong. I mean, we're going to have them adjust. It's kind of worked like that Maribeth Meadows when we looked at that a little earlier. That went through Planning Commission, got approval for the preliminary plan. When it got to the construction drawings, they never could work it out. So that plan just kind of went away. I mean, this is kind of a similar situation. You know, after the plan's approved, before they will go out there and start doing any work, they'll have to have a pre-construction meeting to do that. At that point, you know, they'll sit down, they'll make sure all these issues are in order. If there's something that needs to be adjusted, they'll adjust it. So this is not the last step where, you know, once it's past this point, it's the point of no return. You know, there's always the ability to make tweaks and things in the field if necessary.
Comments.
And I'll second and hope we fill every parking spot.
Yeah, that's aggressive. 109 new parking places.
Good for you.
It's growing like leaps and bounds everywhere, but especially out there.
And I love the plan. I'm good with the plan. I'm excited about the plan, but I just want to make sure we don't, you know, mess up that.
Oh, no, yeah, and agree. We share that concern. Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve 18-3017 Las Casas Baptist Church parking lot expansion. Any other questions?
Well, I'm not voting.
But he is looking at the stake.
All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Any other business, Doug?
Well, there is an item that I did want to bring to your attention. I've got it on the screen right now. This is something that's really just come to our attention within the last week and a half. Of course, we always appreciate our Postal Service workers and the job that they do and everything. Apparently, which again just kind of came to our attention within the last week, and to be fair, the folks that we met with from the Postal Service, it didn't really come to their attention within the last couple of weeks as well. There were some new regulations that were approved on high at the federal level regarding delivery in mail delivery in residential subdivisions. Apparently, these regulations took effect back in April of this year, and it's just now finally trickling down to the localities. Right now, we're all pretty much used to, back in the old days, you always had the mail carrier that actually walked from door to door. I remember at my house, there was a little mail slot, and they just walked, and they'd park the truck on one block, do their round, and then go to the next. Well, then over time, that evolved, if you will, to curbside. Everybody has their big old mailbox on the street, and he or she drives down there and does their thing. Well, as part of the evolution of this, they're looking now for new residential subdivisions to have what you're seeing here, something like some sort of a centralized mail delivery kiosk, if you will, something like you would see in an apartment complex, townhomes, commercial type buildings, those kind of things. So this is something that we're going to have to get a handle of. This isn't something that's necessarily going to affect anything that you would have to do, but you're going to start seeing this in subdivisions where they're not going to see mailboxes anymore on in front of everybody's home. It's really going to be, at some point, there may be a couple of these stations, if you will, throughout the subdivision. They're trying to meet with the post office folks. They're trying to meet with developers and builders now as they move forward with this about how this is going to work. Basically, they're going to have to meet with the developers, have approval of how the delivery system is going to work in that subdivision, and that'll all be coordinated through them, not so much us. But what we're going to do is see if we can't come up with some regulations, because there's several things about these. Are they going to be in the right of way or not? Exactly. Are you going to have like a turnout area where you're going to have some people parking? How that's going to work is going to be covered. Packages. Now these packages, and they say that the parcel, that's really they do less of the flats and more of the packages now. But these lockers will all have, these are all keyed. And it's a security concern as well. Right now, people's mailboxes, unless you have them where they're locked, pretty much anybody can walk into your mailbox, open it up, and see what your mail is, and put it back or take it with them. But these will all have like these larger lockers for parcel delivery and things like that. It's just something we just met with the post office folks this past Thursday, so this is all pretty new to us.
So this is all for new construction?
Correct. This is new. Now, what kind of an interesting twist on this, because we asked them, first of all, this is really going to apply for subdivisions that are 8 lots or larger, because the smallest box like this they make is about 8 boxes, is about 8 cab or whatever you want to call it, 8 lockers here, if you will. Just kind of showing the rest of it. These, of course, this would be something larger. I mean, I don't necessarily know you would see something like this just in a subdivision necessarily, but again, 8 lots or larger is what they're looking at. Now, in existing subdivisions that have curbside delivery already, they would still remain that way. They would remain curbside. Now, let's say for a developing subdivision, like some of the ones we looked at today, like your Nature Walks or your Walnut Downs, or even like your South Havens, if they started out that way, new sections coming in would probably, it'd kind of be like a hybrid. You'd have some that would be curbside, but then you would have some that would have the centralized kiosks. So that's just something that developers are going to have to work with the Postal Service as they move forward with this. And of course, we also discussed some other issues as far as safety, 911. Obviously, most people, when they have their mailboxes, they have their address on the mailbox. You should also have it on the house. Not everybody does that. So that's something that we're going to have to really start cracking down on, is to make sure that the numbers are there, so emergency vehicles or even just any delivery service at all will be able to find houses without having the mailboxes there.
So this is a new requirement, it's not optional.
Correct.
So all the plans we approved with nothing like this on them will have to be adjusted.
Well, possibly. Like I said, we're just now, I mean, at this point, obviously the ones that were already submitted, they're trying to work with developers as best as they can as well, because like I said, the folks that we talked to, we had one of the postmasters here in Murfreesboro come along with somebody from Nashville that handles these kind of things. And they have just been made aware of the regulations. This was just almost as much of a surprise to them as it was to us. So, for a little bit, we thought that maybe this was just something that, oh, hey, by the way, here it is. But, to their defense, they're just finding out about it. So it's going to be a learning curve for everybody. But this is something that's going to be coming and something that you'll see some more discussion on. So I just wanted you to all be aware of that.
But you're still going to have like Amazon packages and things, and you're not going to have keys to get that in there. So they're still going to have to get to the house.
Right. I mean, UPS deliveries, FedEx, things like that, I would imagine would still be, to your door. This is really just the USPS is what we're talking about here. But yeah, I'm thinking the same, larger parcels and things that don't fit into these lockers. I mean, I don't see what other choice you would have. If it's not dropped off at your door, then they'd have to leave a note and you'd have to go pick it up.
Regarding the issue of the houses not being labeled, if we go to something like this, could we incorporate some sort of rule or policy that's incorporated into curb and gutter or something?
Well, yeah, I think there's already codes issued. I mean, as far as code requirements and fire code requirements, and Larry can speak more to that. As far as having the numbers on the houses, I think that's right. Yeah,
it's a little harder to read.
Yeah, it is, and I know that the city deals with that a little bit. They don't do it, but every now and again, I live in the city. Every now and again, I'll get a little flyer in my mailbox that somebody wants to go around and start painting it right away, which technically they're not allowed to do. So, that'd have to be something established citywide or countywide. And it'd be more difficult in the county, especially not everybody has curb and gutter, right? So it's, yeah. But anyway, there's no actions required. This is really just informational. So beyond that, I didn't have
FYI, that first little bank that you put up there, it actually, and I think this bank here is probably a post office box system, but that first set of banks that are up there are actually just exactly like a post office. It's just not in the post. It's like a post office box. It's just not in the post office. A little bit of experience with this up in the mountains of East Tennessee, the mail carriers won't deliver mail up in some of those mountain regions because there's no curb, nowhere to put a mailbox, nowhere to pull over. So it's a requirement that they have those banks of things, and every one of them that I've ever seen has a little pull out to where a car or two can pull out, and the postman also has that opportunity to do that. This is problematic for some folks simply because you got keys, and when someone moves out and somebody else moves in and there's no keys for it, I'm not sure who maintains all that, whether it's the homeowners.
Well, and that's a good question. I mean, obviously we're not going to maintain them, so it's going to have to be something else that falls onto some sort of an HOA, along with the stormwater pond requirements. I mean, these are things that we've already been thinking about. The house is going to work,
We need to think about like the neighborhoods that have multiple phases.
Mhm.
So are they going to put everything for the whole development in one location?
Probably not, because we asked, because we asked that question, and specifically for like a subdivision like South Haven. You're talking 500 lots. I mean, you could literally, this isn't even, this wouldn't even be large enough for all 500 lots, what you're seeing on the screen right there. So you could almost have a whole bank of the things. But that's when they would say they'd work with the developer to kind of spread them out in different areas in the subdivision. So if you lived in one area, this would be your kiosk. But if you lived up here, maybe you have a kiosk closer to you, as opposed to a central place in the middle. Right, if there are common areas in planned developments, that's not uncommon. You do see that.
When do you think the date is that the post office is going to refuse to deliver to a subdivision?
They haven't given us an exact date. I don't know if there will be one. I think it's going to be one where they're just going to work with the developers and the counties and municipalities as well as they can.
Like January 1 would
Right, I don't
Yeah,
think,
they-
they haven't given us any kind of a drop dead date like that, and I don't expect that in any time.
So what's your goal, Doug? What's our goal as
Well, our goal
planners?
for this discussion was just to let you know this is coming. Now, what we want to do as staff is develop some regulations with this in mind, understanding, some of the issues we talked about today as far as pull-off areas, maybe a parking area or two for the, the mail carrier themselves. Because obviously, it's one thing, one person pulls up to get their mail, they're there maybe a minute and they're gone. The postwoman gets there, pulls over, they're going to be there for a while, especially if they've got 30 or 40 different things that they have to do. So it would make more sense to have them kind of off the road somewhere where they're not interfering with, the traffic. So our goal is to come up with some common sense regulations for these kind of things. Obviously, they were telling us about places like in Germantown near Memphis and areas like that, where obviously they've got a lot more architectural controls and there's certain ways that they want these to look and different things. I don't know if we need to go that far. I really don't think we do. But at the same time, I don't know if it's just enough just to have like just a post in the ground and have it sitting there, just on the side of the road somewhere. I think it needs to be a little bit more than that. So that's.
Service require or allow a roof over it.
I don't think they care one way or the other.
Specifications
Now
as
they've
to
got
that.
minimum requirements as far as how they're installed themselves, and the information they provided to us actually has like schematics of pads and how that would work, just some basic elevations of how that would work. But as far as if they're roofed or not, if they look architecturally pleasing or not, they leave all that up to the municipality or the counties that are dealing with it.
So we've got fairly large latitude.
We have leeway, yeah.
Did that give you a number, like if we do a 20, 20 lot conventional subdivision, with 2 and 3 acre lots, do they still want us to do one on that small?
It's 8, yeah, the minimum is 8.
Okay.
Yeah, anything less than 8 is, they wouldn't worry about, because they say the smallest locker they make is 8 boxes. So, yeah, anything smaller than that, they would require anything.
Our 2 local postmasters here are gonna work with you, try to implement this we're thinking now it's sort of a slow process to implement this. But what's gonna happen is, the 2 postmasters are gonna get some word a little higher up that you will get that going. So we probably don't have as much time
Right.
as we think we have.
Well, kind of what we're expecting is whenever we start meeting with people because most of these developments, except for the little 1 and 2 lot subdivisions, we might get phone calls about that. Hey, Doug, hey, Mike, Katie, whoever, we're looking at doing this. What do I need to look out for? Okay, this is what you need to do. Just submit a plat. We'll take a look at it. When it comes to the larger plats, new subdivisions, new sections of subdivisions like the ones we looked at today, especially the newest subdivisions coming in that are just starting, we always sit down with them on the front end and get their idea of what their preliminary plan will look like. As part of that discussion and part of what we're probably going to build into regulations, even before we do that, we're going to tell them, you need to contact this person at the post office to start discussions on how your mail delivery is going to look like because of the centralized delivery system that they're implementing now. So you need to meet with them, and then that will just be part of the design that we look at. Okay, these are your subdivisions, this is where your drainage is. Okay, so show us where your mailboxes are going to be. Just another thing to add on to the list. The engineering.
Some of our local engineers are aware of this.
Well, we're gonna. I know at least one of them is, because we had one of them in our office the other day about some other projects, and we brought this up, and he was already aware of it. So now he found out about it maybe a couple days before we did. So I mean, it's all new to everybody. So
Nationwide, pretty well.
yes, yeah, this is not just. I think some areas are already in the country already doing this. So it's it's just trickling down to all the other localities.
You know of any that are close that if we happen to be in the area we could look at?
Off the top of my head, no.
On Main Street and the new apartments across from Far East, that they're right in the front and they're covered.
I was about to say the apartment
I say,
complex.
okay, you're talking just in general, like some that are already kiosks that are already up.
Yeah.
That's what you meant.
but
Okay,
more
I thought you meant like.
specifically a subdivision and how it was located and how the pull-off
Okay.
is.
These are apartments.
Yeah, see, I
Apartments
don't.
have these.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any subdivisions that have this already, but as like the discussion was, there's plenty of apartments that do. I know the apartments that I lived in when I first moved here before I bought my house was centralized. You pulled in and, I'd park and then walk to my box to get my mail and then go to my apartment. So, I mean, from that standpoint, they've been in existence for quite a while. just not in the context of residential single-family subdivisions. And I see where the post office is going with it. I mean, it's going to be, it's change like anything else. I'm sure when they went from door-to-door delivery to curbside, there was probably a little bit of kickback, I would imagine. This will be the same. You'll have some kickback with this because most people are now, they're used to having their mailbox, and you know, if you move to a new subdivision that has a centralized kiosk, well, you don't have that anymore. You know, you got to go pull off somewhere and get your mail and then go home. So it'll be a little bit of a learning curve for everybody, but I can see where they're coming from. It helps them from an efficiency standpoint. It helps them save time, helps them save costs as far as new equipment, new trucks, and different things. So it's just going to be an adjustment.
You're not aware of any retrofits to older existing?
No, from what they've told us, and because we asked, what they told us at this meeting was that if they're already curbside, they'll remain that way.
Doug, two things. One, I see this as a public safety problem, but also, too, in a subdivision, there are people that either can't drive for legal reasons, for handicap reasons, for aged reasons. So this is going to basically trigger the absolute mandatory need for sidewalks.
Okay. Well, and one other, just to follow up on what you're saying there, that issue came up in our discussion, and if there is an issue, like you said, the person can't drive, they can't get to the kiosk, they will still continue to do curbside in those situations or have to drop it off at their house or whatever. They would work that out with the individual homeowners at that point. Right, something on that. Yeah, but they're aware of that. Now, I understand where you're going with that, and I think, yeah, it just kind of, you can see why, you know, you look at this, okay, we're going to go to centralized mailboxes, but then you really start thinking about all the potential impacts from it.
There's huge impact.
Yeah, there is the potential for a lot of impact. You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Anything else, Doug?
I think that's enough for today. Kay, did you have anything?
Our larger and more used engineering firms need to be part of that discussion as to how they're going to incorporate those kind of things. And
yes.
Some feedback from them would be good.
Absolutely.
I'm sure Williamson County's facing the same thing that we're facing, so how they implement theirs could impact us on them and them on us. So just communication with some surrounding counties probably would be good too. And
yes,
I know
sir.
you probably already thought about that. Okay, our next meeting is scheduled for August the 6th. That's a Monday, August the 6th, 6 p.m.
Should be the 13th. Second Monday.
Oh, you're right. That's right, isn't it? Thank you. 13th. So we've got a little break here.
Yes, we have an extra week this time.
Very good. August the 13th, 6 p.m. in the historic courthouse. And we've got one item, I believe it's 6A7 for Victor Estrella that we deferred and are scheduled to hear that on that night as well.
Yes, sir. We have 2 rezoning applications, and we'll, like I said, putting this plan that we just talked about today that was deferred shouldn't overload the agenda. So.
Okay. Thanks, Doug. Anything else?
We should have all probably gotten the email from the Power of 10 conference.
Yes.
That
Yes.
date is September 13th. That's always so good.
Yeah.
Every year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you let me, if you all, I'll send an email out just to see who's interested in going. Of course, you know, that can be used as part of your training. So, you know, if you're interested in going, let me know. And like I said, I'll send an email out and we can pay for the attendance of that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you for your time, your attendance, and your participation. We are adjourned.